Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Adata. Today, we have our Executive Director, Mr. Probi Roy, and our dear Principal, Mr. Gaud Banerjee. Welcome, sir.
As the principal of the Heritage Academy, I feel privileged to welcome our distinguished guest, Mr. R Balakrishnan, popularly known as R Balki, an Indian filmmaker, screenwriter, and former group chairman of advertising agency Lowbudget in the ad at the 2020 organized by the students of Media Science Department. Thank you, sir, for your coming. I wish you all the best in the days to come.
Thank you.
Sir, I would request Mr. Probi Roy to say a few words.
Uh, on behalf of Trust, I also welcome again Mr. Balakrishnan. I don't think I can speak anything on the subject when he is present here. So I will not like to take any time, and I wish that I am sure that all the students will be highly benefited from the interaction with Mr. Balakrishnan. His achievements is well known, so I thank you and welcome.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. 2020 has stumped us all, what with the pandemic and the ensuring lockdown around us. In this new normal, even though staying fit may not be that easy, however, following the advice of our guest will surely get you there. Our wonderful guest for today is the person who brought walk and talk into vogue, advised us to maintain chini kam, and also made us believe that daag achhe hai. My dear advertising premies, we all know अमेरिका के पास सुपरमैन है, बैटमैन है, स्पाइडरमैन है, लेकिन इंडिया के पास पैडमैन है. A winner of multiple national awards for his mesmerizing work, our honored guest for today needs no introduction. We are extremely honored and fortunate to have with us none other than the man himself, Mr. R Balki.
Pleasure.
We welcome you, sir.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on board with us on the Adada 2020. Thank you so much, sir. How are you doing in pandemic? Firstly, to ask with.
Exactly as well as or as badly as you. All of us are exactly the same.
No, sir, but I have seen you working very hard. Even you made the first public service campaign right after a lockdown, and that was such a noble activity to do from the, aspect of a director. So as a student, I feel very honored because I've literally grown up watching your movies. And thank you so much for making such wonderful piece of art for us, for the nation, for the entire world, I would say. And with this, we would start. But before that, I would like to welcome our Dean, Professor Dr. Madhupa Bakshi, to kindly say a few words.
We would love to hear him. So shoot your first question. Then
Sure,
I'll go
ma'am.
with the second one.
Okay, ma'am, sure. So we students, sir, from the media background are very much inclined towards filmmaking and towards how at filmmaking works, how the industry works. We're so inclined to know everything, and who better but from the expert. So that is why we have all gathered today. And without wasting much time, I would directly jump into the question, which I'm sure you have been asked a million times, but we as students, we really want to know this from you directly. How did you get into advertising? Or did you walk into advertising with the dream of a filmmaker, or just to be into advertising?
No, I had no clue what advertising was. I had no idea there was a thing called an advertising agency. There was an ad that I saw in the newspaper very long back from Mudra, the agency, asking me in 100 words to say who I was. It's almost like I'm a product and I had to sell myself. So I didn't understand the fact why they were asking me, but I was very glad somebody was asking me who I was. So I wrote it only because the logo, I didn't know there was an agency called Mudra, but I knew the logo because it used to come at the end of every Bunyad episode. And I thought it was Ramesh Sippy's company, and I thought Ramesh Sippy was asking me who I was. So I answered the question because I had no idea of advertising. I wanted to be a filmmaker always. I got into this agency and we went through the first training program ever for copywriters for 6 months. In fact, that was the origin of Micah. Micah's dream happened only when they realized that 6, 7 people could be trained like that. So I started off there and I got addicted to advertising because I think advertising is a great platform to tell focused stories. I call them focused stories because you're doing a story with a purpose, not to sell so much as to say a story about the product. because I don't think advertising alone sells. There are so many other factors associated with selling a product. So I did get into it, and then I just got totally addicted to advertising, and I forgot all about feature filmmaking till about 14, 15 years into the business.
And that is how the Bollywood happened to you, I'm sure, after which.
After that, after I suddenly got an idea, and we shot with so many stars and everything, but I still didn't ever think of making a feature after that because I've made so many films in advertising, so that kind of quenched my thirst, and I was telling all kinds of stories, so I was not in a rush to make a feature film.
Very glad to hear that, sir. I would like to, ma'am, to ask a second question. If yes, sir.
Yes, we were
Sorry.
talking about, give us examples of campaigns that you have done and you think that that was your best campaign, whereas you have done some campaigns which you probably don't consider so good.
No, I think I don't think there's anything like the best campaigns or the back campaigns or whatever. I think each one has got a different purpose. The each campaign is fundamentally a solution to a problem. That's why you're communicating and that's why you're spending money. But for me, the most important thing is it interesting? First thing, anything must interest the viewer. If it's not interesting, nobody's going to watch you first in the first place.
Yes.
But once it's interesting, if it's wrongly interesting, again, people are just going to watch you and not react to it or act on it at all. So both are quite dangerous. So it needs to be interesting and needs to solve the problem it was intended to solve. So these two are very, very important.
They
So when you
two
see
should go handy, according to you,
hand
sir.
in hand, so when we did, for example, when we did Jagore for Tata Tea, and why that was interesting to me was the fact that it did two things. One is it was interesting because we said most teas, what is the difference between Tata tea and other tea? We had to position Tata tea as a superior tea. So how do we do that? Most people come and say, I've got better leaves, I've got better pack, I've got this, I've plucked my leaves. That's all very boring to consumers because everybody is kind of claiming superiority. So we said, if how do you say Tata tea is superior? You drink tea in the morning, you get up, tea wakes you up. But if it's superior tea, what will it do? It'll awaken you. So that's when Jagore happened. Of Tata actually is the biggest differentiator in Tata tea. Tata should awaken you. So that's how Jagore happened. And when we did the ad, it's about waking people up to a lot of issues. Like if a politician comes and asks for a vote and he says, what's your qualification? You're applying for the CEO post of the state or the country or the locality. So what qualifications do you have? Small jobs, people ask for so many qualifications. For the biggest job, why aren't you asking? Why shouldn't I ask you for any qualifications? So it was a wake up call for people because we never ask for anything. So it's about getting to the problem. How do you articulate the problem, finding a solution, and expressing it very, very, very interestingly?
Right. Right, sir. So, talking about the story process, I would really want to know what are the major differences that you feel exist between storytelling in both the communications, be it movies, be it ad films. What is the basic difference between both the storytelling process?
See, I think uh, if you're a writer of a feature film or if you're a writer of an ad film, a writer of an ad film has to tell a story to solve a particular problem. A writer of a feature film has to tell a story to tell a story interestingly. There is no problem you're trying to solve. It is if the problem is the thought in your head, you're trying to express the thought in your head as a story. So that is where, of course, communication is important. Of course, people must understand the story that you're trying to tell. That's what is the meaning of communication. Am I communicating my thought to him? That's the lesson that you learn in advertising because when you have 30 seconds to kind of communicate, you want to ensure that people at least get the message what you're trying to say. That's the first test. That comes as a natural discipline for people in feature films when you write, if you come from advertising. So when you're writing a feature film, you're just writing a story from your heart. You can take it any way. It need not solve any problem. It need not solve any issue. The only thing it needs to do is it needs to engage people. That's what it needs to do.
Exactly. Exactly. That is what we all are working for, to engage audience in the best possible way. Sir, I would really want to know, you have created campaigns like Daag Achhe Hai and Walk and Talk, which indeed gave a different dimension to the brand. It turned around the brand totally. Similarly, in movies, that is what you're following always. Where do you get these ideas from? Really, as a student, I would want to know, where do you get these ideas directly from?
I mean, nobody knows where they get an idea from. Not till today, nobody has discovered where you get an idea from. What you just do is um, you you just sit, think, wait for the idea to drop in. Ideas do drop in if you have a little patience, and ideas do drop in if you keep rejecting lesser ideas. So even for an ad or whatever, you may get 1,000 ideas first. It's all about kind of saying no, 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 no till you pick something that is really exciting. The same thing with features. You may have a lot of ideas for to make films, but everything cannot be made into a film, or everything is not worth
Right.
making into a film. So
Right.
you wait till there's one idea where you're willing to invest 2 years to make a
That
film.
one moment when the idea will hit the brain. That
It will.
one.
It's a luck process. I mean, you can only kind
Sure.
of clear up your mind and wait for it. You need to have the ability to say, "This is what I will do, and this is what I will not do."
Yes.
Ideas come to everybody.
Right, sir. So you have handled both low budget and magnanimously high budget ones, the projects I'm talking about. But the newbies don't get the high budget. What would be your advice to them? How to handle that project if the budget is very low, even if the budget is very low?
Nobody gets a high budget. It's not newbies or old bees. There's an economics in filmmaking. When you have a big star, you have a certain budget because stars actually are a huge part of every budget. Because people come to the movies to watch stars, so they are very rightfully kind of have the right to take a fair share of the profit. But I think it's not about the budget. It's about, suppose there is a project. Suppose you have a Bahubali or you have a fantasy that requires a
Right.
certain amount of budgets to do. So if you're a highly skilled filmmaker, and if you've got a background which tells people that you can do this and have a story, people will trust you with it. But yes, to trust a very big budget film with a newcomer is going to be a risky proposition for anybody. But it doesn't mean that it has not been done before. It depends on the conviction of people. What is the story that you're trying to tell, and if they're convinced of your conviction, fundamentally.
Right. Right, sir. Right, sir. Absolutely right. I would request Madhupa ma'am to take forward the next question. Uh,
From childhood, we had not been able to talk about menstruation. There was always a taboo around it. It was in whispers. How did you think about the topic, and what was your source of inspiration?
I didn't
For
think of the topic at all. I actually, Muruganandam thought of the topic. It's his life. Arunachalam Muruganandam led an incredible life. When Akshay and Twinkle wanted to do this film based on his life, I only said that I need to meet him. I need to be convinced about whether I can tell the story. When I met Arunachalam Muruganandam, I decided to write it only because of two reasons. One was I said there has never been a more creative man who I've seen who's such a lateral thinker like Arunachalam Muruganandam. And second most important thing was when would I ever get a chance to do a mainstream film starring Akshay Kumar and a sanitary pad? I mean, you'd never get a chance to do that. And for me, the third most important reason is unless you do these things in a mainstream way, this is not going to change conversation. If you do it in a niche way, if you do a documentary, not many people, only the converts will always kind of be watching it. How are you going to convert people? It has to be done through mainstream media. And I was so glad that Akshay decided to kind of do this. And because of him, it became more mainstream than ever before. And because of him, today that pad factories are so much in common. People are using the word pad so freely. Yesterday, the Prime Minister has kind of launched this thing of my pad, my goal, whatever that campaign is. It's a super thing. Everybody's talking of pad so easily and openly today, which is a huge movement, which is fundamentally based on a feature film with a mainstream star opening up the
absolutely,
conversation.
yeah,
absolutely.
that brings us to Orgudip's first question. You were the first one who had gone out and done a public service campaign. At that time, probably after those 2 months of lockdown, we were mostly not venturing our house, and we were afraid to come to office also. How much courage did it take?
No, it didn't take much courage. It just took precautions. I mean, I think we all have to begin working, and there is a fear for everybody, and nobody is risk free. But you have to kind of take the precautions that you can and move on with life. Otherwise, it's very difficult for us to progress, for environment to progress. We'll get into more suffering if we don't take this little risk. Uh, but it's not about just taking the risk blindly. It's about taking the precautions and then taking the risk, what I call a calculated risk. But we all have to do it. Sooner or
What about
later,
what
all of us are
lot
going to.
of students? Like we have film students, and right now they want to make movies. They're afraid to venture out of the house, or they are because we have film classes, and our filmmakers are trying to get them to do some practical projects. What would be your advice be to them?
Shoot a film at home. If you're afraid to kind of get out of home, shoot a film at home. Why do you have to get out of home to shoot a film?
Okay,
Right.
and
Right.
Arudip, your question.
Yes, sir. So I have this question, like, how has advertising inspired you in the work as a film director? I mean, did advertising had an influence on it?
Of course, hugely, because advertising teaches you storytelling, teaches you so many kind of methods and techniques to tell a story, and just being a part of so many films, looking at so many concepts, so many techniques. I think advertising has opened up a lot in terms of introducing us to newer actors, newer techniques, newer forms of screenplay grammar. I think advertising teaches you a lot.
Exactly. So,
I think
so
there is no bigger school for filmmaking than advertising. There is no bigger school.
exactly. So, apart from directing your movie, how much do you involve yourself or maybe contribute in the advertising and branding department of your own films?
I think I they all insist that I do contribute and design the thing, but I don't think it's a wise thing because I used to do it till Padman, till I cut the trailer of Padman. But I, I, I always find that I'm not actually the right guy to do the promotion for my own film, only because I'm so close to my film. So
Yes,
therefore, I forget sometimes. It's like a client doing his own ad. I don't think it's right
exactly.
because it's the thing. So I try and kind of listen to a lot more people to design the stuff. I only kind of get involved in the design aspects of it.
You have always put the brand in the film from Chini Kam. You have always
See,
put the brand in the
I don't.
film, and
I
that has been done brilliantly. Today they are talking about brands taking over films.
See, I don't think it's about brands taking over films or films taking over brands. I think it's about how do you place it. I think we all interact, we all live in the world of brands today. You can't deal with invisible products. If you want to take a tea, you can't do an unknown tea. You will have to use Red Label or Tata Tea or something like that if you're doing a showing a middle class family. Or if you're doing, let's say, if you're going to take a phone, it has to be some brand of phone. If it's an iPhone, it'll have to be an iPhone. You can't manufacture a new phone because we're living in the area of brands. And secondly, most importantly, like take a film like Padman. I'm sure, as you would guess, a lot of brands wanted to tie up with us because they wouldn't get a better opportunity, sanitary pad napkins. But we said no to those brands only because we said the whole film is about a man fighting for a low-cost sanitary napkin. If you can provide sanitary pads for 2 rupees each. We'd love to tie up with you. Why don't you kind of do a sample and say for 1 year we will provide sanitary pads at 2 rupees like Muruganandam did? We have no problem tying up with you. But also, when you tie up with brands, it also needs to be on the philosophy of the film. It can't be just blind tie ups with brands.
Right,
Absolutely.
right, sir. Absolutely. So I have this question now, which in the presence of my professor ma'am as well, I would like to ask. This is something I have been waiting for. How can me and my friends work with you? Is it how is this how will that be possible?
Um, you can, if when I'm doing my next film or shooting something, you can come and work with the team, and for sure you can write to me. And when
Because
if there
I'm
are
sure as a master student, also the students of bachelors, we are all waiting for an internship. That is the most important period of our life. So, I mean, an internship with R Balki sir would be just cherry on the cake. So, I
But
mean,
it'll only be worth it if I'm shooting a film at that point of time. Otherwise, there's no point in having an internship. So
Ah,
sure, sir.
if
We
there
would
is a
yes,
definitely
film,
look
it's
forward to that, sir.
sure.
those lateral ideas are inspirations to them. They should also learn how those ideas happen, and it may be worthwhile also be close to him also.
Right, sir. Right, ma'am. Absolutely right.
Can
Before
you
moving
now?
forward, we would take a few questions from the audience. Just a few questions. So Abhishek Sanyal has asked, "Sir, any film of yours that did not get the deserved reaction from the audience and critics alike, which you think it should have?"
Uh, yeah, I don't think any filmmaker does not think that all his films should get great reactions. There is not a single filmmaker alive who thinks that all his films don't deserve the greatest of reactions. But you get disappointed with certain reactions or not disappointed. Like I was very disappointed when Shamitab didn't work because for me it is a project very close to my heart. I was doing a film on the most iconic voice of India and I was paying a tribute to that. And when that didn't work, it really hurt me a lot. So there are some things when you're very close to, which if it doesn't work, does kind of hurt you and affect you.
Surely. But sir, I love Shamitab. I am a huge fan of all your works. I loved Shamitab. Next question from Debrit De. I am pursuing a bachelor's right now. For masters, is it important to go to a film school to become a great filmmaker?
Um, I don't think it's. I think film school. When I started out, there were no film schools. There were no advertising schools. We were the MICA was not there. So I think today there are a lot of film schools. If you are getting into a film school, please go for it. It's a great learning because otherwise the struggle to get into a film industry and work there and grow up is a lot more. At least you have a certain kind of a background to kind of get into the industry and start off with. So you get a little bit of advantage, but it's not too much of an advantage because you still have to go through a lot of struggle when you get out of film school to get into films.
The struggle will be real, be it any platform, be it anywhere. As an ad filmmaker, Agnijita ma'am asks, as an ad filmmaker, which is more important to you, brand image or brand engagement?
I think it's the same. What is brand image? Brand image and brand engagement are the brand image happens because the brand is engaged a lot of people at a lot of times, and you build an image over a period of time. So I think brand engagement is really important.
True, sir. Orchishman Chatterjee asks, was there a time you have made a mistake? If yes, then how did you rectify it? That's
Yes, I have made a mistake. Unfortunately, in advertising, mistakes are quite expensive, and you can't rectify it. You just move on, or you lose the business. So you kind of, if you do get a better chance next time, you do kind of do another campaign with clearer objectives and all that stuff. But yeah, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and amongst the many mistakes that I done, one was Maruti Versa. Besides that, there are campaigns in various brands that I've made a lot of mistakes on.
So, just a question. How much difficult it becomes for an agency to handle a bad campaign? Direct. How do they handle that situation?
So an agency will handle the situation in a certain way, but it's also for the client because you've launched a brand, you've kind of spent a lot of money on it. If it's a new brand, it's going to affect you a lot. If it's a most seasoned, established brand, it becomes one campaign. It's just a monetary kind of a thing. You do another campaign to kind of correct it. But where it really suffers is in new brands. You know, you lose that initial kind of a thrust when your first campaign is not working.
Right, sir. Right, absolutely. So we have a question from Shoham Bosch. How does an idea get developed into a story and then into a film?
Well, you get the idea, you sit in a corner or you're walking around, an idea drops into you, and then you sit down at your desk, open your computer or your notepad, whatever, start typing. You type and type and type and type and type and type and type. You write, you work, you rewrite, you work, you rewrite, you work. Don't think you can go to the hills and start writing. You have to write it like it is a job. You have to sit. Discipline is the most important thing. You write, and then there you go, read it out to a lot of people. A lot of people will make faces, some people will clap, some people will laugh, some people will write, some people will say yes, some people will say no. If you're lucky, if there is one person who says yes, then it starts getting into a film, and then the process happens of making it into a
And
film.
that is how we got blessed with
How
so many beautiful movies that you
how
did,
much
sir.
time does it take for a from a conceptualization to a movie? How much time does it take?
I think by the time you finish the movie and gets out from conceptualizing, it'll about approximately a year.
Okay, and about the story, when it comes to your story to the stage of a script writing.
That depends on you how fast you write or how efficient you are. It's got no time limits on those things. Some people can it can take 6 years, some people can take 6 months, some people can take 6 weeks.
Okay. Sir, just one question we would take from the audience. Could you tell us about your journey while conceptualizing the Daag Achhe Hai campaign, the
Yes,
Revolution
Dhagache
Ghee
as a
campaign?
campaign was very simple. Was anytime we all fight about when you feel somebody is your enemy uh, or your competition. Let's put it competition. Uh, if you're confident about your abilities, you will not keep trashing the competition. You will celebrate it because whatever the competition does, you are able to handle it. That's what Surf excelled at. If I'm a superior washing powder, my competition is dirt. Why should I keep trashing dirt? I can say actually dirt is very good. Yeah, it is actually got a lot of advantages. You worry
Right,
about
sir.
the advantages of that. I'll worry about handling the competition. Don't worry. That's the dirt. So Daag Achhe
Right.
Hai is actually a campaign which shows the confidence of a detergent. And when we say Daag Achhe Hain, it's about saying, yes, a dirt is all about. You can learn if that very first film that you see, the Puddle Walk campaign, where the boy is kind of splashing the puddle to make his sister laugh. It
Exactly.
came from a very simple insight of saying that children kind of when they're crying, when they get hurt, if you rub their hand, they'll cry even louder. But if you hit the table that has hit them, they say, "See, I'm hitting the table. There's the table." They start laughing. The same thing was the puddle war stuff, but it needed an engagement with dirt, which Surf Excel gave the license to do so.
Wow,
It's a
that's a
lovely
Yep.
one. It's
lovely
a
story.
lovely one. And thank
Thank
you for
you.
those moments. It takes you back to those childhood days.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Thank you. Pleasure.
So, how did you get the idea of PA? This is a question even I wanted to ask. So, did you always think about Mr. Amitabh Bachchan and always move forward with that idea?
No, it's very simple. One day I was kind of at a session with Amitji for Chini Gum, and I saw Abhishek coming and saying some very wise things to him, and Amitji was pulling his leg and behaving like a brat. So I said, "Hey, this guy is behaving so wise. He's behaving like his dad. This guy is behaving like this." And normally they don't. Normally Abhishek is always the brat. So this happens. I said, anytime I do a film, maybe we can kind of do a fantasy film switching. Then I want to do a real film on this. How do I do it? Then I discovered this condition called progeria. Then I wrote that story. But the fundamental reason for doing power was to invert their roles.
My God,
The
that
last
was
question, Diptangshu.
yes. The Tangshu Maiti asks, it will be great if you could name a few of your most inspiring contemporary filmmakers and if you have ever been inspired by some of their works and whether and how it has been reflected in your works.
I think all of us are affected by the films that we see. I actually never look at who are the filmmakers. I look at the films. Like if I take a film like um, Lagan, I will look at the film. If I look at Satya, I look at the film. I'm not going to like in this during this lockdown. I saw a lot of Bimal Roy films that I'd never seen before. I had never discovered Bimal Roy. For me, he was a discovery, which is like supreme. At the same time, I would love to see Mr. India again. I saw Mr. India again recently. Amongst the contemporary filmmakers, there are so many wonderful filmmakers who are here. The other day, I saw this series called High, High, High on MX Player, which is a superb series by this new filmmaker who was a colleague of mine at Lintas called Nikhil. He has made that series. It's a supreme kind of piece of work. So like this, I kind of watch things that there are so many things that you're influenced and attracted by.
Any Bengali filmmakers you watch?
I just said Bimal Roy. I mean, he's one of the
Okay.
and I think I have discovered Bimal Roy like I've never before.
Okay, yes, definitely.
Definitely,
Definitely.
definitely.
Thank
From the
you.
That is the
stalwart.
starting point of the Bengali journey of Bengali
Yes,
films.
yes, yes.
So can we see you doing with directing a movie, Bengali movie, any soon?
I wish if I'd known the language, yes, I would. If I was fluent in the language, because I like to write. So therefore, I can't write in English. Yeah, things can be translated, but it's always lovely when you get the flavor. Because I love
Exactly.
Calcutta, I love Bengal, I love Calcutta. I have such it's got. I love the flavor of Calcutta so much. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for being with
Pleasure.
us.